Yes, yes, upgraded the facility. This is like the second or third, I think, show I've done in this new spot. So thanks for noticing. And speaking of upgrades, like you and your team every year just continuing to like, you know, upgrade, right? And probably how you're doing the results. Um, where are you? And I think you're 5 years in. Where are you right now compared to, if I'd have said on day one, this is where your team's at now? Is this where you expected, a little further ahead? Not even close to where you thought you'd be or want to be at this point?
Yeah, this was a goal, and it was an expectation, but there was a lot of times in during the last, 5 years that this didn't seem attainable. And so, I think that we're here, and we're where we wanted to be, where we thought we would be. I think that, coming into this year, we knew it was attainable, but, it wasn't something we hadn't come close to accomplishing yet. So I think we're a little ahead of schedule, and but but right on the standard.
Yeah. And you said it's funny. You said there were some times where I didn't know if it was attainable or if we could get there. Can you maybe point to some of those moments, those tough spots? I'm sure you had plenty of them, right? Where you're like, dang, like I don't know. I'm sure there's times you question, are we going to be able to get anything going here? Are there?
Yeah, I mean, we had one Division 1 win year two. We had no year one, and then I think we only had one year three. And I think at that point I was like, man, what am I doing wrong? And we roll into year four, and we've done some really good recruiting. And man, we lost so many close matches last year that like we would have been in the same position. We were walking away from duels going, holy smokes, like if we just had these, you know, we lost 5 matches, and four of them were in overtime, and one was by 1 point, and we lost all of these moments, and I think that was a tough year. I think that was year four was like, what, we've come this far, we're so close, what are we doing wrong? And it was just really us having been through the process and understanding that our older guys, everything they've done was for the first time, right? And so that, I think coming into this year, we had high hopes that they were going to turn that corner, and that our young guys were going to really, really help pave the way with, getting new wins earlier, getting new accomplishments earlier, and kind of, that growth of the young guys, helping pave the way, but the old guys, buying into what we're doing. And I think that really kind of apexed it to this point this year.
It's funny because I talk to so many coaches and coaches that are built, in the process of turning a program around or building a program or wanting to, to do something special. And there's a common thread of that. Like we lost 5 matches, 4 of them were overtime, and one was by a point, and the other one, we got reversed at the last second, and it's like, what are we doing wrong? Really, I think it's just time and, like you said, experience. And these, the more times that your guys do it, the more reps they get, the more success they're going to have. And so there are always those setbacks or moments where it's like, golly, can we do it? But there's also the opposite, right? There's the defining moment. There's there's that key win, whether it's an individual or a team or a performance at a tournament. And can you point to any like defining moments so far for your program?
Yeah, I think there's a few. I think last year we saw a lot of promise because you got a guy like Stephen Little, who's a true freshman, going, and I think he took third at the scuffle, or third or fourth, and in a pretty tough weight class. I think that gave the guys a lot of energy. And then rolling into this year, we had a pretty good Tiger style tournament, which is the beginning of the year. Had a couple champs, beat a couple top ranked guys, and I think that really brought a lot of energy and excitement to our team. But I really think the defining moment was we were at Drexel, wrestling Drexel and Clarion, and you're wrestling two tough PA teams that are, traditionally just got some good kids on the team. You're in the heart of wrestling country, and we went up there and we pushed through a lot of hard matches, and we scored a lot of points, and we kind of rolled. And at that point, our guys came back, and we were like, we're different. We have never been in a duel where we've been wrestling these types of teams, and we might have came out on top, we might not have, but a duel where we pushed through those moments and we scored bonus points, and we beat a lot of really good seasoned guys that have been wrestling at a high level for a long time. And I remember going back in the locker room at Drexel, and I looked at Coach Hobby and I was like, "We've never done that before." I was like, "We're different," and what we got going right now can be pretty special. So we got to keep encouraging them to focus on the things that make us us. And I think that was, I think that was a really big turning point for my young guys, recognizing what those hard moments are in a match and how we got to wrestle through them, and for our older guys to really thrive in that situation where it's always been 50-50, or they won 40% of the time, but they blew right through that moment.
And you're like, I went back to the locker room and told Coach Javi, "What, we never done that before," or something like that. What, did you turn around, or was that in front of the team, or did you communicate that to the team, like, guys, we're doing something here we've never done before, and however you got to it?
I mean, 100%. I mean, I remember I had that conversation with him. It was just a brief, 10-second conversation. And then kind of my word to the team was, what we did today was different. And if we don't start protecting that by focusing on the processes of winning, with focusing on scoring points, we can lose that really quick. And so I just challenged them. I was like, today we created an edge, and now it's time to build on the edge and protect that edge by continuing every single day to really focus on those things. And they responded to that challenge really well, and we really didn't look back after that.
Yeah, would you say that was that a turning point, maybe for the individuals and the program, like a confidence boost thing that was like, all right, we're not this startup thing anymore. We're this program that's pushing and thriving.
I think it was a huge confidence boost. I also think it was a turning point in the sense of the conversations that we were having with the guys are now changing, right? You push through it once, you know what it feels like. That's just the tip of the iceberg. That's just the beginning of what you're capable of if you continue to believe in wrestling through those moments. So I really loved being able to have those conversations. Okay, now we got to keep building on, hey, our top game, our bottom game. And we got to come in every day with that type of mentality and attitude to replicate it, 25 more matches over this year. So huge turning point, huge moment just to build off of. And I think it showed the path of how we could jump levels really quick, and how we can be successful really quick if we just continue down this road.
Well, maybe in the book 20 years from now about Little Rock Wrestling, that's one of those moments where it's like, not only did that was the tip of the iceberg on how far you could push, it's the tip of the iceberg on like what Little Rock could become, and this year is just maybe a glimpse into the future. So hopefully for you guys that's the case. I am curious. We're talking about coaching and where you're at and where you've gotten to and where you want to go. Like, looking back years ago, when did you know you wanted to coach? Was it a moment in high school under John Smith? Was it anywhere in between? Earlier than that? Later than that? When you was like, I want to coach wrestling?
Man, I know that I know that exact moment. And I spent my first 2 years right out of Oklahoma State. I was in a grad assistant position coaching, loved it. I think I loved the winning part of it. I didn't. It was all about winning, right? And when I went to Stillwater High, that's when it became about coaching. That's when it became about building student athletes. Because we had a team that we finished the year top 10, and I think we ended up having 4 or 5 All-Americans go on, at Oklahoma State and a couple other schools, and but we had to build a team to win a team title. And I just remember watching guys like Cade Brock and going, man, that inspires me to want to help him reach his goals. The way that he showed up every day and just attacked his practices and his life, like that fired me up. But what really stood out to me was the guys that you had to build relationships with that were just there to be on the team, right? And I didn't want to be the coach um, that just coach the good guys and hope the other guys could do the best. I wanted to build a team where we had 14 guys going to the state tournament, 14 guys placing. Like those are the things that I wanted to help them accomplish, and building those relationships was really cool because you're helping guys who maybe they've only wrestled a few years, or maybe they wrestled their whole life and haven't had success, and getting to the state tournament was just a huge accomplishment. And I think there was a moment where we were at regionals and there was a kid, Pete Pickens, and he lost in the placing round to go to state, and we worked so hard to get Pete there, and he was just such a great kid, and he came up and he just hugged me and he was like, "I love you, coach." He was like, I did absolutely everything I could, and he's like, "I love you for everything that we've done this year." And he was a senior and he was done, and I think at that moment I just realized, like, you're not just coaching people to win, like you're coaching people for life. And I really need to figure out my purpose now because I really do love this. And I think that was a pretty special moment. It wasn't a moment of, we went on to have 5 champs and win the state title and be top 10 and blah, blah, blah. It was a moment when the kid didn't accomplish what he wanted, but he felt like um, because of how we pushed him, he was just happy to be in that moment. So, that would be the defining moment of when I realized I wanted to coach.
That's excellent. Uh, and what's something that you learned or that you can learn coaching high school that maybe you can't learn coaching college?
Well, I think everybody should be forced to coach high school. Like, I think you should have to do your 2 years, do your time, um, and you learn how to wear a lot of hats. You learn how to get things done and be a problem solver. You're everything from the wrestling coach to the strength coach to the tutor to the psychologist, the sports nutritionist.
Yeah.
You're doing the laundry, you're mopping the mats. There's a lot of value in in what high school coaches do. And if you want to be successful, you can't just be a high school coach. You got to be the junior high coach. You got to be the little league. You got to be involved in the little league and really building that foundation of a program. And so it teaches you how to work, teaches you how to work hard, and that hard work works. And I think wearing a lot of hats is really the main statement that comes to mind. Is you have to do so much. And I was fortunate enough to have a coach that was there to mentor me at Stillwater High. To when you're young and you're focused on winning, you're full of piss and vinegar, and you got to learn to relate to a lot of different people. You can't just come in guns blazing all the time. So, it's just such a valuable experience from all the things that you learn and how to manage people and work with people and manage parents and expectations and communication. Everybody should coach high school for at least 2 years.
Well, and you talk about wearing a lot of hats, like the college coach does too. Maybe some of the hats overlap, some are different. Maybe there's less overall, maybe not. But it used to be coach runs practice and that's that. We know that the successful Division I coaches now, man, they're fundraising, they're obviously recruiting, you're coaching, you're marketing your program, you're trying to get involved with promotion. How much of that eats up your time as on top of, all right, 3 to 5 with coach practice?
Man, I spend more time doing those things than I do coaching. Um, you know, it, I love to spend time working with the guys, but I'm very blessed to have assistant coaches that I trust a lot, and I think that's a big part of being a head coach is you're not just doing all the things you said, but you're hiring the right people and you're trusting people um, to invest into your athletes and sharpen them and get them to where they want. So there's 85% of my time is spent doing the other things. And when I get to do that 15%, that's really my joy, my enjoyment, right? That's where I get to have fun. That's where I get to, really build time with the guys. And man, I don't think people understand how much you have to do the things you're saying now, the way that college sports has changed. Like, if you're not thinking about fundraising, you're behind. If you're not thinking about making sure that your brand is visible, you're behind. If you're not thinking about the things coming ahead of the curve and what you have to do to protect your program, like You can be a good leader by reacting to situations, but a great leader puts you ahead of the curve, and you can see around that corner and see what's coming. So I think as a college head coach, that's one of the main things you have to do is you have to wear a lot of hats, and you have to start looking around the corner saying, hey, look, there's a big semi coming, we got to be prepared. Or based on the new rule changes or the conference realignment, like we got to start focusing on how we're going to get ahead here. And we haven't even touched in recruiting yet. Recruiting is the lifeblood of a program. So you spend 85-90% of your time doing those things.
Sure. And one of those things, I remember you've talked about, you want your events, you don't just want wrestling matches to take place, right? You want, and I think the word you use is like experience. From local craft beers to, all kinds of stuff. Why is that important? And what are you trying to do to stand out? How do
Yeah.
you build a
So, I mean,
fan
the first
base?
thing, yeah. Yeah. The first thing we did was, we created an octagon mat. We were the first program to have an octagon mat. Now, you got big time programs like Mizzou, Virginia Tech. All these teams are starting to recognize that's a cool concept. And
So
that
small,
concept
so
was
subtle, so cool, right? It doesn't
right.
matter, but it's
Yeah.
cool.
And it derived from the fact that like not a lot of people have seen wrestling in Arkansas, but they've seen UFC fights, they've seen
Yeah.
the octagon. So I wanted to correlate that. We do sell different craft beers and we do sell different things in the arena, but we really try to focus on the product that we put on the mat, and the experience around it is what makes people want to come back. And we've gotten to where I think we averaged a little under 1,000 people a duel after our first big win. Number one, because when you win, people want to come, but number two, the atmosphere is so much fun. People yelling, people screaming. I'm all over my guys that aren't competing. Like if I don't hear your energy, like you're not doing your job, and it takes everybody to be successful. And your role right now might be to make sure that we get that stalling call we need, or to heckle the other coach to get them flustered, right? And the experience really makes whether or not someone's going to come back or not. If we're putting a poor product on the mat and it's not loud and it's not exciting and it's not like a cool thing to look at, to watch, then people aren't going to come back. And we've noticed a great growth because of our success, but I think it's also because of the little things that we've done with the atmosphere and the mat and putting people really close mat side, making it intimate. And it's all kind of create a cool little experience that people here in Arkansas can only experience at Division I level in one place, and that's at Little Rock.
And how do you get the word out about the program, about the events? How do you get people inside the arena other than having a good experience and wanting to come back?
Man, we have I don't know if it's like this other places, but I know it's like it when I was in Oklahoma. Radio sports talk shows are huge things here. Um, they're deeply rooted into every parts of the community. And so I'm kicking down their door to be on their radio, to be on all different times of the day. I've joined I've been going to what's called the Little Rock touchdown events, which is where they hand out, the Frank Broyles Award, and they're handing out national collegiate football awards. And I'm there and I'm talking to people, joining different clubs like the Rotary Club. There's 600 something people in the Rotary Club that I'm in, and we do a lot of community service. We're out in the community serving the churches and serving people in need, and we're trying to just get in front of people to be visible. I mean, I'm running a youth tournament, and my guys are all volunteering at every youth tournament to ref. That if we have a weekend off, especially if they're not wrestling, they're going to go ref. If we're at the U State tournament, they're helping put the mats down, they're help picking them up. And I think that service and being very visible and constantly trying to not just promote yourself, but promote the program and the athletes in the community. Eventually, it's going to stick, and it has. I mean, we've gotten more coverage this year leading up to our season, and then once we started finding the success, it was like, 3 or 4 days a week we had different media here asking questions, doing videos, calling in on the radio, doing podcasts, and it's just really, really accelerated our visibility. And I think that's important, that you have to have a way to relate to the community to continue to get people in the doors.
I think that's awesome, and obviously you're hustling your ass off, and you're putting your face in a lot of places, and that's what it takes. And I'm sure making sacrifices. You can't spend all your time with everybody, right? There's a give and take. So, but you're talking about all these things, your little things you're trying to do to make your program better and innovating with the mat and everything else. And I know there's a bunch of John Smith disciples out there that, there's Papalizio, there's Coleman,
Yeah.
there's Ward, there's I don't know, like Pendleton, there's a whole bunch. I know you guys get together. You have like a summit once a year. Every once in a while, y'all get together. I'm sure you have a great time. But I know you sit down and you brainstorm coaching, and you all give little pieces of advice and what you're doing, what's working, what's not. What's like something you've taken from that? One of the bigger things that you've taken from one of your peers, your former teammates. You're like, oh, I'm going to implement that here.
Yeah, I think that, obviously Coach Smith's influence has greatly influenced us. I mean, we could probably do a whole, docu-series on John Smith and his coaching tree and how it's impacted the wrestling landscape today. That can't be understated. But, I spent a lot of time with Coleman, and we kind of grew up in coaching together. And so, a lot of the things that we had to do were to lean on to other people. And, I think that, Chris Pendleton was someone that I spent a lot of time talking to and working with. And I think one of the things that we've really focused on is that him and I took from each other, and, me a lot from him, is just this idea of relearning sports science, I guess you would say, and relearning, how the body works, and not getting stuck in the mindset of wrestling is we do things a certain way. And that's really helped open my mind to recovery, to, how we train, the type of things we're doing, really paying attention to, I guess you would call cycling, of, how you're, or periodization, how you're training in periods of times, and how you're, replicating that. And there's a lot of different things in there that I've taken from him, and that him and I have bounced ideas off of each other that have really grown my program drastically. And so I think, he was a huge influence, and not just in my wrestling career, but also my coaching career as well. And then taking risk, like a lot of these guys, they jump out and they take risk. I mean, Pat Papalizio has been a great representation for all of us of how holding the line and having, strong morals and character and being disciplined takes your program really far. I mean, you can't understate how much he's impacted the rest of us in wrestling, watching what he's doing and how he does it quietly. I mean, tell me how many times you've heard Pat Papalizio, complain or cry about something. He doesn't. He puts his head down. He works hard. He does it right. He gets the right type of kids, and he gets the right people on the bus and in the right seats. And year in and year out, he finds a way to get it done. So definitely someone that I've looked up to and tried to replicate. And I don't think you can talk enough about the OSU coaching tree. With Branch, I mean, Branch was really the first of our group to go out on his own. There's a lot of other OSU coaches like Coach Glenn at Duke and some other ones that have been around. But in the era that I grew up in, Coach Branch took a huge leap of faith, went to Wyoming and started crushing it right away. And so all of those things that just kind of opened the door for a lot of us. I mean, Kevin Ward, he was working in an oil field, and he took that to Ouachita Baptist, took him to a top 5 program within 4 years, and then went to Army and has been doing a great job. Like, all these guys have been an influence to a lot of us in their own way. And you can watch them and you can see what they're doing, and you're like, man, I want that. I need that. I need to make sure that I'm implementing that. And I hope that we can all grow coaches ourselves that see that and look at what we've done, because it's been pretty stinking cool.
And I'm sure you guys share experiences and things that you've done towards your program that have worked and helped. They probably, maybe, share things that you did that didn't work, or roadblocks you didn't see, or mistakes you've made. And you and everybody else who's ever coached anything has made a mistake. What's like the biggest mistake, or a big mistake you made, whether, in your coaching, you're like, don't do that again. I had to learn by getting it wrong.
Man, I would say that my mentality and attitude towards my guys, um, you need a lot of positivity. You need a lot of encouragement. You know, these guys are working hard, and as long as they're giving you the energy that you need and the output they need a lot of positive encouragement. And I think that maybe when I was younger, I spent a lot of time focused on the things they weren't doing right and kind of nitpicking them too much instead of encouraging them in the areas they're doing well. And when they do change a small habit or they have a moment, like you don't say finally or I'm glad you listened or whatever. Like you encourage them and you're like, dude, that was fantastic, and you get a lot more out of them. And I think that that positive encouragement has been something that I've really shifted my perspective on. And how you view your student athletes is super important. It can't just be something that you say or you try to train yourself to say in the moment. It's like you got to write down your thoughts about your athlete, and then you got to reframe your perspective about them if you have a negative perspective, because it's easy to get a negative perspective when you're not getting what you want out of a student athlete. And so I think that right there has really changed my coaching. It's just reframing my perspective about my student athletes, how I speak to them, how I think about them, and how I communicate with them.
All right. So the success you guys have kind of got rolling this season, right? You're in a year 5. You've yet to have an All-American. Like, how important is it to land an All-American or two at the end of this year, or not? It's like, man, we do. If we don't, we'll next year.
I think one of the best things that we've done is we've alleviated pressure from our guys, and it's not about whether they have the outcome; it's about the output and how they win and how they lose. And it can't be understated how awesome it would be to have an All American. It can't be, there's not enough words to express how that would just put a cherry on top of this season, right? But um, my focus is not on whether or not we're going to have an All American. My focus is on how are we going to continue to let the guys feel free to compete and to go out and let it fly and score a lot of points. And I think that um, if we keep that mindset and we keep it rolling when it comes to just that freedom to wrestle in every position and not feel the pressure to have to win or lose, that the outcome is going to be dictated by the amount of points I score and the positions I wrestle in. I think we will have an All-American. I think we have some guys that are very capable of that, that are right there in the mix. And it would definitely, man, I would probably do a backflip if we got a All-American. I haven't done a backflip in a long time, so.
Don't hurt yourself, bro. But what? And we're kind of getting close to wrapping up. But what you're saying is something I'm hearing a lot, right? Let's not focus on the outcome. Let's focus on effort. Let's focus on positions, one position at a time. I don't feel like it was always that way. And maybe I'm going back 10, 20 years, but do you feel like it's been that way for a long time? Or you feel like it's trending this direction?
I think it's trending this direction. I think if you look at the greats, they've always had that process-oriented mindset that they were able to filter moments. They were able to filter things in the right way. They probably did want to win. Also, I don't want to take that away from people. Like people do want to win, and we do want to get them to that success. But I think if you look at a lot of the greats, they were able to filter those moments and go through the process of going like, look, I'm a freshman and I'm wrestling the guy that's weight above me. He didn't get taken down last year and won a national title. If I can take him down, I can probably beat anybody in my weight, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so I think that it's definitely trending towards this because you're also seeing other people talk about it. David Taylor did a big post about it, and he was talking about the margin of error and how when you're focused on scoring points, like the margin of error is much bigger, and when you're focused on the win, it's much smaller. And I think that's something that several of us across the country have been preaching for a few years, and now that you got some very polarizing figures talking about it, like people are jumping on board, right? So I think it's something that's trending, and I think it's only going to get better. And I think that keeping that old school toughness about like, I'm hard to kill and I'm going to find a way to win. And being process focused is going to be, really successful the next few years.
Sure. Last thing, maybe, if you could, right now, talk to the guy who accepted the job 5 years ago. On the day you accepted it, what would you tell? One piece of advice, one sentence, one. I got one thing to tell you. Phone a friend on one thing. What is it?
I think it would be that, the best thing we did was we stuck to who we were, right? Like, I didn't create a program and I didn't recruit to things that I thought people would want to hear. And there were a lot of times that I was like, man, this whole trying to do it right thing is hard. It's not working, right? And I would just say, continue to stay the course because it's going to work out. It's going to come together. And, what we've done is not the pinnacle of what we want to do, but I mean, I don't care what people think. It's unbelievable to go to top 25 and be the fastest program ever from scratch. Like, that's an incredible thing, and we're going to celebrate that and to continue just staying the course with the things that are very, very important into who you are at the core, and that'll work out in the end.
Well, Dan, I didn't even think I realized fastest team from scratch to make top 25. Congrats. I knew you guys were rolling. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man, and yeah, keep it rolling. You're doing great things. We're going to keep an eye on you. I think the wrestling world's on notice. We're going to give you the final word, though, to say anything else you want to say.
Well, first off, you've come a long ways from sleeping on our couch in college, going from school to school, filming people. So it's really cool to see all the things you're doing. I mean, just grateful for those things. People being able to see the films that you're making. We didn't have that access when I was a kid. It was very much like trying to bootleg some Olympic trial videos or some NCAA videos, on VHS and tape over them and things like that. So thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for, making these videos and making and creating new dreams for more people. I'll just say that, the number one thing that I want people to know is that, and I made it a point to think it and say it, is that God is good even when you don't, see him, hear him, or feel him. And just through this process, there's been a lot of things that didn't seem like they were going right that ended up being the best. And as long as you keep your focus on him and, your focus on the main thing, and you run the race with a purpose and not, aimlessly, and understanding that you're running a race for something bigger than yourself, good things happen because hard work works. And if you got a vision and a direction and a foundation you live your life on, you'll find your way somehow, some way. So I really appreciate you letting me be here and share and, about what we're doing and in the direction that we're going and how far we've come.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you. Appreciate the kind words and thanks for joining us today. Really excited to see you guys keep climbing. So have a great day. Good luck at conference, rest of the season, and NCAAs.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Neil. You too. Later.
Bye.
All right, folks, and that's going to do it. Another one in the books. Neil Erisman doing great things out at Little Rock. Look for them to continue kicking ass. Can I say that? I think so. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.